second journey, the king heard about his son's unhappy mood and wondered what could have gone wrong. He needs more variety, the king thought. I'll plan another trip for him, but this time to an even more beautiful part of the city. And so Channa prepared Kantaka again, and again they rode out into Kapilavastu. The streets were decorated as before, and the people were again happy to see their prince. But this time, seen only by Siddhartha and his charioteer, a vision of a sick person appeared in the crowd of laughing people. "Look, Channa," the prince called out. "Who is that man who coughs so violently, who shakes his body and cried so pitifully?" "That is a sick person, O prince." "Why is he sick?" he asked. "People become sick for many reasons, sire. Perhaps he ate some bad food or let himself become too cold. Now his body is out of balance and he feels feverish. Do even happy people like those in the crowd ever become sick?" "Oh yes," answered the charioteer. "A person might be healthy one day and sick the next. No one is safe from illness." For the second time the prince was deeply shocked. "I cannot understand," he said, "how people can be so carefree and happy knowing that sickness might strike them at any time. Please turn back the chariot. I have seen more than enough for one day." When he returned to the palace, the prince was even more unhappy than before. Nothing anyone did could make him smile, and he did not want to speak to anyone. When the king found out about his son's unhappiness, he became very worried and confused. "I have tried everything to make my son happy, but lately his heart is filled with gloom. I must ask my ministers what I can do to brighten my son's spirits." They suggested that the next time the prince wanted to leave the palace grounds, he should not go alone. Rather, he should be accompanied by singers, dancers, and nobles from the court. And they should plan to visit a specially prepared garden where the prince could be amused and distracted by all sorts of entertainment. And so, when Prince Siddhartha again requested to visit the city beyond the garden walls, many arrangements were made to make the journey as enjoyable as possible. The city was beautified even more than before. All unpleasant sights were removed and a special park was prepared with all manner of delights. The final shock, Siddhartha and Channa again left the palace by chariot. And for a third time a vision appeared that only the prince and his charioteer could see. A group of sad-eyed people, carrying a long box in which a body covered in a white sheet lay, appeared from one of the houses and slowly made its way down one of the side streets. "Channa, why is that man in the box lying so still? Is he asleep? And why are all those people crying? Where are they taking him?" "He is a dead man, sire. They are going to the river where they will burn his body." The prince was confused. "What do you mean by dead? And if they burn his body, will it not hurt him? Please, Channa, explain what you mean so I can understand." And so Channa explained, telling the prince the truths his father had tried to hide from him all these years. "That man was once alive, as you and I are now. He was born, grew into a child, then he became a young man. He experienced the many pleasures and pains of life, raised a family, worked for a living, and grew older. Then he began to get weaker and weaker. He was confined to a bed. Soon he was unable to recognize even his closest friends. He grew worse and eventually his breath left his body. In this way his understanding and life force came to an end. Now he is dead. All that is left behind to see is the body he cared for so much while he was still alive. It lies there cold and without feeling. When his family burns the body, he will not feel anything, because he has already left it behind. Tell me, Channa, is it unusual for people to die like this?" The charioteer answered, "No, my prince, not at all. It is true that there are some people who never get the chance to grow old, and there are some people who very rarely get sick. But everyone, without exception, must one day die." These words, uttered innocently by the charioteer, shocked the prince deeply. "Do you mean," he exclaimed passionately, "that one day my wife, my child, my friends, and myself will all be dead? And all these people I see here today, all dressed up and so radiant, will also die? Oh, how blind the world is that it can dance and sing while death is just waiting for everyone. Why do they all bother to dress themselves in such fine clothes if one day they shall be wearing nothing more than a simple white sheet? Do people have such short memories that they forget about death? Or are their hearts so strong that the thought of death does not bother them? Come, Channa, turn the chariot around. I wish to return to the palace and think. But instead, Channa drove the chariot to a beautiful garden. There all the most charming singers and dancers from the palace were waiting, along with the musicians, ministers, and a large feast prepared by the palace chefs. They all welcomed the prince joyfully and cheered when he stepped from the chariot. But the prince did not smile, nor did he say anything. His thoughts were totally absorbed in what he had seen that day. Fading pleasure, everyone tried his or her best to amuse the prince. The dancing girls flirted with him, hoping to win at least a smile from his handsome but saddened face. Yet Siddhartha did not even seem to notice them. He could not get the visions of old age, sickness, and death out of his mind. One of the ministers, seeing that the prince was not enjoying any of the splendid arrangements that had been made for him, came over to the prince. In the joking manner of a friend, he said, "Siddhartha, it is not right that you ignore these lovely dancers and refuse to join the festivities. Come on. You are young and healthy. You should be enjoying yourself. What is the matter? Aren't these women pretty enough for you?" But the prince answered him in a voice as strong and low as thunder. "You have misunderstood me. I do not dislike the lovely people and things I see here. But when I think of how quickly their beauty will disappear, how everything changes so fast, I cannot find much pleasure in them anymore. If there were no old age, sickness, and death, then I, too, could find great pleasure in such lovely objects. But in the middle of such unhappiness, knowing what awaits us all in the future, how can I be satisfied with pleasures that will fade so quickly? You, my friend, must have a stronger heart than mine if you can be amused so easily. But for me, everything I see is on fire with suffering. Until I find a way out of this suffering, such worldly amusements do not interest me at all." And so, unable to brighten the prince's mood, everyone returned sadly to the palace. When the ministers told the king that his son could not be entertained or distracted by anything, he felt so much grief that he could not sleep. "Oh, my beloved son," he thought to himself, "what else can I do to keep you here in my kingdom with me? What other pleasures can I provide so that you will stay?" And with such worried thoughts, fearful that he would soon lose his only son, the king spent the night in despair. The vision of peace, the prince sank deeper and deeper into gloom. He seemed to lose interest in everything. He hardly ate anything anymore, and as a result began to look pale and unhealthy. The king and everyone else were very upset that these unhappy changes had come over their beloved Siddhartha. One day, he appeared before the king. "Father," he began, "lately my mind has been very troubled. I feel restless and would like your permission to leave the palace once again. Perhaps a change of scenery will do me good." The king was quick to agree to his son's request, for he would do anything to please him and make him happy again. But, as before, he asked some of his most trusted ministers to stay close to the prince and keep an eye on him. This time Siddhartha saddled Kantaka himself and rode out of the palace grounds in search of some beautiful countryside. Finally, he came to the edge of some farmland and dismounted. The ministers followed close behind. They tried to gain his attention with stories, news, and gossip of the court. But the prince had no interest in such idle talk, and soon the ministers left him alone and walked away. Still chattering among themselves, Siddhartha looked out over the farmland. A man and his oxen were plowing the field, the birds were singing, and the sun was shining brightly. "It is so beautiful here," he thought. The plowed rows in the field look like ripples on a lake. He sat down and his mind relaxed for the first time in a long while. But as he looked more closely at the scene before him, He began to notice things he had not seen before. Where the plow had come by and cut rows into the soil, he saw the bodies of hundreds of small insects that had been killed by its blade. He saw hundreds more running back and forth in confusion now that their homes had been destroyed. He also noticed that the birds were not just gaily singing. They were also constantly searching for food, swooping down to snatch up the frightened insects. And the smaller birds darted about in fear, scared of the hawks and other large birds who circled hungrily above them. He noticed that the oxen labored heavily while trying to drag the heavy plow through the ground. The lashes of the farmer's whip cut painful blisters into their sweating sides. And the farmer, too, worked hard. Like the beasts, his rough and sunburned body glistened with sweat. Such a circle of misery, thought the prince. This farmer, his animals, the birds, and the insects, they work all day trying to be happy and comfortable, to have enough to eat. But, in fact, they are constantly killing and hurting each other and themselves. How pitiful the world seems to me.